So welcome everybody. Excited to have you here today. My name's Tim Cerny. I'm the CEO at SafetyNet, and we're an IT managed service provider and providing IT support, outsourced IT support to small to mid-sized businesses. And we are hosting a webinar today on cybersecurity insurance, something that we don't do, but we highly recommend that our clients and companies around us, do have in place. And to do that, I've invited an expert in that space, Mitchell Blue. Mitchell is a commercial risk advisor with Highstreet Financial, and some of you may be familiar with his organization under the name of Peterson McGregor. They've recently rebranded under Highstreet, and Mitchell brings a ton of experience in that particular space. Mitchell, welcome to the webinar.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks for having me.
You bet. So we get asked this question, a lot. People, in particular, with companies that aren't as familiar and aren't as in tune with the amount of cyber attacks that are happening in the industry. When it comes to cyber insurance policies, there still is a decent percentage of companies out there that don't carry cyber insurance. Maybe you can speak a little bit to that, Mitch.
Yeah, absolutely. So, over the last couple of years, the number of companies that, started to carry cyber insurance has certainly increased, but it still only accounts for about a third of companies right now do have a cyber insurance policy in place. Now, a lot of carriers have started just including as like, as a endorsement, a broad part of their broadening endorsement, they've just started including some cyber coverage because really what companies don't know is that's our third highest claim category at the moment.
Is it? Maybe you can share with the group what you're seeing there. What are the top 5 claim categories?
Well, so number one is work comp claims, as you can imagine. So employees getting injured, and number 2 is auto-related claims, also, as you can imagine. So whether it's comp or collision-related claims, but auto is a very frequent claim category. And then now we've got cyber coming in at number 3, and it's something that, again, most people, it's a lot of people own vehicles, right? And if you own a vehicle, you have auto insurance, whether you're covering that for physical damage or just liability only. But also, everybody has, a smartphone or a computer, their network. I mean, they're storing all kinds of data, let's say in the cloud or wherever, that, what I'm saying? And they just freely save, whether it's their bank statements or financial records or tax returns or things of that nature. They save these documents, whether it's to their computer or to the cloud, and they have no thought of the fact that somebody could come take that information and use it against them.
Yeah. It's interesting that it's now become the third largest category. It seems like 5 years ago, cyber, the percentage of cyber of companies carrying policies was even like in the less than 20%. It seemed very uncommon for them to be carrying the policy. But you're saying it's only a third right now. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. That? Yeah, despite, I mean, from our perspective as we're consulting with clients, we're constantly trying to incorporate a quote for them if we can get to that point, in terms of gathering the data on what their exposures are. But it's still only a third of companies at this point.
How about that? And as it's grown up into the third largest sort of category of cyber claims, what are you seeing? What are some of the average or common claims that you're seeing for cyber policies?
Yeah, so what we see most common is that somebody's network has been hacked like a long time ago, and so because they don't have processes in place for staying current with updates, or
Hmm.
they don't have, multi-factor authentication in place or things of that nature. So the cyber criminals are, doing keystroke monitoring and other things of that nature.
Hmm.
And they really then get into their calendars and all kinds of things. So they
Yeah.
know what the client is up to. And so I had one happen just recently where the business owner who manages all the finances, his network had been compromised, and it had been compromised quite a while ago. And he had a scheduled vacation coming up, and so he flew out of Traverse City on Thursday night and was coming back on Monday. Well, on Friday, there was money that was uh, transferred out of their business account. And when he came home on Monday, it wasn't until Tuesday that he then checked. And at that
Hmm.
point in time, for the bank to, dive in and try to pull those funds back, or figure out even where they went, at that point, it's a difficult task. And so in this particular case, they did have a cyber policy. The immediate thing that we do is there's an 800 number that you call, and with that 800 number, they start the claim process right away, where they engage legal counsel to assist you.
Hmm.
They also engage a forensic IT team to come
Yeah.
in and dive into your network. Now, in this particular case, it was social engineering, meaning they basically emulated as if they were the client, right,
Right.
and requested that these dollars be sent out and or logged into that client's online banking because they had been monitoring the keystroking. So
Yeah.
from a bank perspective, they thought it was him. Um,
Yes.
and there was no phone call or other sort of verification. And because the dollar amounts that were being sent were such that they didn't trigger any sort of uh, you know, redundant follow-up,
Hmm.
it just it happened organically. And once the all those dollars were added up, in this particular case, it was over $60,000 that was sent
Yeah.
out in one day. Um,
Yeah.
of
We've
that,
seen, go ahead.
none of it was recovered.
None of it was.
So, part of the claim in this particular instance, obviously, then is the dollars that were lost, subject to a deductible. But then, now we've got the forensic IT group that's, diving in. Plus, then we've got the legal counsel that's a part of it. And so, the overall claim when it was all said and done was six figures. And
Yeah.
I would say that's very common.
Sometimes people don't recognize that in addition to those claims, the size of the financial impact, that there's a huge productivity loss as well. Are you
Absolutely. Yeah.
advising clients in that capacity as well?
Well, this was a small company, and no company is really because the cyber criminals, they don't know who they're attacking. They just
Right.
are really trying to attack any weak source that they possibly can.
Yeah.
And so, in this particular case, the company had to devote all sorts of time and energy, dropping what their normal, workload was in order to um, work with and assist the forensic IT team in order to, answer questions for the bank, and
Yeah.
follow up with the bank and get documentation from the bank. And, not to mention the fact that then at that point they have to go through and change every password that they
Yeah.
have for all networks. They had to, you have to figure out exactly what kind of data has been taken, if you're subject to any sort of notifications for for data that you have of others.
Hmm.
So, that could be personally identifiable information. You're required to notify individuals. So
Right.
it's a
Reputation.
reputation. Yeah, it's a really big time commitment
Yeah.
that in most instances, companies don't have the capacity, the excess capacity. I mean, it's not like you're sitting around with two or three backup employees, most companies, it's like, they don't even hire their next employee until everyone's buried in doing 150% of their job. So you can just imagine if you have to continue to do the regular job plus deal with, this large task. And,
Yeah.
one of the companies that, well, just in our area here recently, obviously TCAPS has been hacked, Grand Traverse County has been
Hmm.
hacked, and then even in our own industry, the Accident Fund, the largest work comp insurer in the state of Michigan, their entire network has been down for over 2 months. I mean, zero. So from a underwriting standpoint, internally, they had to go and create Excel documents in order to even quote on business. And they
Wow.
haven't been able to accept payments. So uh, even when companies that are insured with them are mailing in their monthly payment or otherwise, they can't even apply it and post it to an account at this point. I mean, it's that big of an issue. And so again, if we, and those companies have, they have cyber coverage, right? But it's at this point, they're down 2 months.
Yeah.
And so when you quantify their loss of business during that time period, because for a matter of a couple of weeks,
Yeah.
many of their
Unbelievable.
employees they didn't even know what to do, right? So I mean, they would go to work and then get sent home, and the company's still paying them on
Wow.
payroll.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, to really quantify these things, and the fact that big or small, the same impact, it has the same impact.
Yeah. Wow. Well, the initial example you gave there of sending money out of the organization, really acting as someone within the organization requesting a transfer. We refer to that as email spoofing. It's one
Yep.
of the most common forms of kind of a cyber attack or a loss of money due to a cyber incident. And we recognize that more and more on the cyber insurance policy questionnaires as a requirement, and have been responding to that and others with some new tools here at Safety Net to provide protection to our clients. But outside of requiring our clients to have cyber policies, nearly all of them do today. But I think the conversation is, you can put all of the tools in place and protect the business, but oftentimes it comes down to an individual training, cybersecurity training, to understand what you're looking at and what to ensure that you're not doing. Because if an individual puts the wrong information on or doesn't act diligently when it comes to reviewing emails, and then having a internal policy in place for routing number changes, wire transfers, these types of things, any cyber tools and policies you can have in place could fail if the individual itself doesn't act. You probably have seen that as well, Mitch.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I feel like the training that in the training that has come about recently has certainly improved to help educate employees on exactly what to look for.
Right.
And then also just to be a little more cognizant within their email, right? That like if they receive it, most of the time the requests are coming from somebody that is in their contact list, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And so um, were they expecting an email from that person? And furthermore, you know, those they typically include a link, right? And so and if you look at the email address, it really actually didn't come from that person, but they've spoofed it to show that it is coming from someone within your address book. And then it includes a link and says, hey, inviting them to a meeting, or
Yeah.
asking them to complete a questionnaire or upload a document. And you just really need to be on your toes and cognizant of those types of activities that that you're getting hit with all the time.
Right.
So
Yep. Without question. Cybersecurity training's got to be there in place too, as one of the tools and to provide protection to your business. Um, how are policy prices determined, Mitch? As and by the way, to everyone listening, I'd like to make sure that you recognize you're welcome to ask some questions here. Best and easiest way to do that would be through the chat button. If you've got some questions, load those into the chat. We'll take some time before we break here at the before 9:30 this morning. So in about 15 minutes we've got left. We'll make sure to try to squeeze in those questions for you. But maybe you can help us understand how prices of policies are determined, Mitch.
yeah, and so that's something that is really evolving. In all honesty, when let's say 5 years ago, it was like no matter what we would send in terms of the questionnaires, the pricing would come back and it would be, $1,000, $1,200, and there was no rhyme or reason to it. And now that the now that the claims are now that we have some claim history, um, the in order to get coverage, in most instances, there's quite a bit. I mean, you have to fill out a supplemental questionnaire, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure you're seeing those where customers of yours are forwarding those on to you to
That's right.
have you assist in answering those questions. But those questionnaires are helping to really determine, in all instances, the insurance company is trying to quantify the exposure that they have. And so initially, the exposure was quantified based on sales. And so they would just say, well,
I
what
see.
are your total annual top line sales?
Mm-hmm.
Well, then they realized, well, really from a payout standpoint, it's number of accounts or files that where you could have where we might have to notify individuals. So then they would say, in the questionnaire, so how many unique accounts do you have? Is it within your within your company? Like, do you have 5,000
Mm.
customers? Do you have 1,000 customers? Do you have 10,000
How
customers?
exposed would something be if
Yeah.
if it happened? Yeah,
Correct.
I'm
And
with you.
now instead of that, they've really expanded it to really want to know about your network. And so what they've done is, as we fill out preliminary information, we obviously provide, physical address of the company's location, and then in addition to that, we provide obviously a website address um, and some other details on the company. And the cyber companies at this point are actually doing like what they call a soft hit. So they go on the dark webs and they look at, you
Mm.
know, what kind of data exists out there for that company. How easily is it accessible? They're able to kind of soft test your network. But in addition to that, they're still asking questions like, do you have endpoint detection response in place? Do you have multi-factor authentication in place?
Sure.
Um, you know, in terms of your operations, what type of training are you doing with your staff?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're really, what are your backup policies? Do you do on-site backup? Are you doing cloud backup? They really want to get a better understanding, and so we are seeing that the gap is widening a little bit between those that are have implemented best practices, as opposed to those that haven't. But it still isn't. The unfortunate part is that it isn't something where the gap is such that you would say, okay, I'll easily sign up for, additional services with Safety Net because it's going to be offset by my lower premium over here with my cyber
Mm-hmm.
insurance policy. That isn't the case in this particular instance. So you're never going to get that cost savings. But what you really want to think about from a cost savings perspective is you want to think about, first and foremost, the lost productivity that you're going to have and the additional time you're going to um, you know put into dealing with a claim.
Lose. Yeah.
Yep. And then furthermore, on a go forward basis, once you do have a cyber claim, now you're in, for lack of better words, their catastrophic pool. And you may find that you're now uninsurable from a cyber risk perspective, and or you may find that your premium has skyrocketed immensely. So what we see in most policies is, the cost for a standalone, robust cyber insurance policy somewhere between, let's say, $1,500 and $4,500, depending on the complexity of the business. And we're dealing with, primarily, small businesses here. And if you compare that to the cost of, even this most recent claim that I was identifying that got into the six-figure range, right? So that particular company, I think their cost of their policy was $1,800, and the payout on that policy was, again, over $100,000. And so from a claims perspective, if it's our third highest claim category, clearly you can see that the math isn't going to work where, they're just going to allow the company to renew next year for $1,800.
Right. Right.
In fact, even though we didn't run out of limits on their policy. I mean, their policy is still in place, but you can just see that there's no way the economics work to renew it at that price. And so, now who knows? I mean, they might be, $10,000 for their renewal. They might be more than that.
Yeah.
And they might not even get a renewal option, and then they'll have that exposure on a go forward basis. So,
Wow. We are brought in with our clients to review the cyber policies when our clients, are up for renewal. So we work with them to provide them, oversight into what types of tools and things are in place so that they can effectively answer those questionnaires. But I do hear from companies that are filling out these policies at times who aren't being really honest about all of the answers and the things that they have in place.
yeah.
What would be the result of a company that may not necessarily be honest on that questionnaire, if there happened to be a breach of some sort?
So the questionnaire is an exhibit to their policy. It is actually part of their policy. And so if you falsify information on the front end of your application, coverage can be declined. So that's the big risk. So what I always tell people in most companies are most insurers, they understand this, is if you don't know the answer to the question, don't answer the question. So just complete as much information as you possibly can based on your knowledge of your network. And if there's some things that are more complex that you don't understand, just leave them blank. And it's better to leave it blank than to answer it and answer it incorrectly or falsely, because there's no sense in purchasing a policy where you falsified information, where you potentially could get into a situation where they deny coverage.
Yeah.
Because then really you didn't pay. I mean, what did you pay for? You paid for nothing.
Right. One of the things that we are now rolling out to all of our clients coming right out of all of the cyber insurance questionnaires are 4 new technologies or 4 new steps to provide additional protection. That includes, we're seeing more and more requirements to have a security operating center, a live SOC to respond and manage certain detections that are happening. So we're rolling out an MDR, or managed detection and response tool and service. Third-party penetration testing is coming up more and more, Mitch, on these questionnaires. Is you may have an IT provider, but how are they being held accountable to ensure that there aren't vulnerabilities? So we've added a third-party penetration test, and I want to get to Mark's question. Mark Stiles has asked a question about that. I'll just finish by saying application blacklisting is being added as a new security feature coming right out of these policies. And then finally, something that a fancy acronym called DMARC, but really is just all about email spoofing and what you were talking about before, a technology and tool to really reduce and hopefully eliminate the ability for people to spoof emails and solicit employees to transfer money out of organizations or to vendors like you were referring to. And so we're, in an effort to provide that protection, that additional protection, these are new things that we're rolling out to all of our safety net clients. But with
That's
only a few
excellent.
minutes left, Mark Stiles asked the question: How often would you do penetration testing? Is that once a year? What's currently? He writes, once a year is what we're currently doing. Which I don't know if you have any perspective on that, but I could speak to kind of what our new product offers too, if you're interested.
Yeah, I'll let you speak to that.
Yeah. So the new product that we're rolling out is a third-party penetration test that does monthly pen testing. I know that certain organizations do look at that and do a once a year third-party penetration test and pay additional money outside of their managed IT service provider for that service. And certainly that is a great step in the right direction. The new product that we'll be offering is a monthly penetration test done by a third party, where the reports are provided to the clients and the remediation work is handled by Safety Net on the work that is identified at no additional cost to our clients. Thanks for that question, Mark. May have another. Mark's asking if that's the Tenable product, and no, that is not Tenable. That is a new product that we'll be introducing to you and many other clients here in the near future, Mark. With just a minute left, any last comments from you, Mitchell, or questions from the group?
I would just say that I think that it's important to take a proactive approach because as part of that proactive approach, it can help you really identify where you need to improve. And all companies are looking to improve on a daily basis, right? So that they can grow, so that they can grow, become more profitable, and mitigate the risks that they really don't want to incur. And so that proactive approach, I mean, just completing some of these cyber questionnaires, if you don't have cyber policy right now, that could be an eye-opening thing. So although I have, I can get a cyber policy for you with very little information. Typically, what I do is I send one of the most challenging questionnaires to customers, and it's an eye opener for them because A, they're not able to answer probably 2/3 of the questions on there. But B, they didn't even realize that a lot of this existed, right? In terms of being able to take a proactive approach. So, that would be my last comments, is just to be proactive with it. Work with your managed IT service team, in order to make sure that you're doing everything you can do in order to prevent loss.
Mitchell, I can't thank you enough for your time today and your insights.
Yeah.
Much appreciated. You know that space incredibly well and have been a resource to me and our organization over the years there. So thank you for that. And if you'd like more information in regards to our services here at Safety Net, or if you'd like to learn more about Mitch's capabilities at Highstreet Financial and Insurance, I would encourage you to reach out. So again, thank you very much for everybody attending. Mitchell, have a great rest of your day. Take care, everybody.
Appreciate it.
And we'll talk soon. All right.
Okay,
See you
great.
later.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.